These are my 4x4 spares that I consider my off-road essentials. Here at MadMap 4-Wheel Drive, I'm all about educating and building the 4-wheel drive community. So I like to have stuff with me that can fix stuff. And that's what I say to people when they ask me, what do I take with me 4-wheel driving? Well, this is just a small part of those essential items. So let's just run through it in no particular order. Let's start with cable ties. Have a good selection of good quality cable ties. Now, if you want to know where you get good quality ones, go to where the tradesmen go, the electricians and those sort of guys. Don't go down to your local cheap store, you'll get rubbish. All right, carry with you a selection of tapes, cloth tape, electrical tape, and you can even get really good quality tapes that will go around a radiator hose, for example. You can tape it up, and when it gets hot, it actually almost becomes part of the radiator hose. That's really cool stuff. All right, have some quick steel. This is like you cut it up, you knead it together, and it becomes like it's plastic metal basically. You can drill it and tap it and do all sorts of stuff, but you could use that to patch a leaking fuel tank, to repair a broken radiator, a thermostat housing or an aluminium housing that's cracked and leaking water or leaking oil. You can gum it up with this sort of stuff. It's very handy to have. Have a selection of glues. Different types of glues that can glue stuff together. What sort of plastic thing might break and you need to fix it to get yourself home? Well, different types of glues is awesome. Now, have a gel type of glue so that it doesn't leak away too fast. Sometimes you'll find the gel is far better than the really runny stuff. Have a gasket sealant sort of product that you can make a gasket with. Again, let's say the thermostat housing starts leaking, a bit of cardboard and a bit of this goo, and you can make a new gasket up so you can get yourself home and get yourself out of trouble. Carry a bit of grease. You never know what you're going to need to grease up. You might be doing some wheel bearings or something like that and you need some grease. Have some brake cleaner. It's great for cleaning those parts out on the trail. Some brake fluid in case you burst a brake line or have an issue with your brakes. You've got some fluid, you can bleed the brakes and get your brakes so you can get back home. All right, and some WD-40. This is a water dispersant spray. If you haven't seen it, it's pretty much worldwide, but it's great for just lubricating something that needs to get freed up. It could be a cable and it's jammed up. You can squirt this down the cable and it might be able to get you out of trouble. And you can also, in an emergency, start a vehicle with this. It kind of acts like a bit of an Aerostart type product. The next two items, some sort of product that's going to be able to repair a blown head gasket. This is a Chemi-Weld product. There's Newlon Maker product, but there's lots of different versions of it out there on the market that you can pour in the radiator and it can repair a broken or leaking head gasket. Then this is Bars Leak. And again, there's many variants of this and people have different opinions on what's good, but you want a product like this that can be poured in the radiator. If your radiator starts leaking and you're losing coolant, that can help you block that up. A pair of gloves, these just disposable gloves so you don't have to get all dirty and mechanic looking. Oil. Carry yourself about 5 litres of engine oil. Why engine oil? Well, not only does it go in your engine, but you can use it in your differentials or in a manual gearbox or in your transfer case. It's not ideal, but it will keep things lubricated and you drive accordingly and it gets you home. Okay, of course you can carry the correct oil if you've got the space and don't mind carrying the extra weight. Carry a selection of hose clamps. Now, you don't have to carry every size under the sun, because if you unscrew this one and unscrew that one, you'll be able to screw them back together and make one bigger hose clamp. So hose clamps, absolutely essential. Carry with you a selection of electrical components. Now, you want your fuses, and I've got some relays and stuff in there. What I did, I went down to my local wrecking yard and I walked in there and I found a vehicle like mine. I went through the fuse box, pulled out all the fancy relays and all the bits and pieces, got them. I went through and got a bunch of bolts as well, because you never know, and that created my bolt collection, okay? And I have a few more around the vehicle. On the bolts, if ever you're looking for a bolt, your vehicle has got bolts all over it, and a lot of them, you don't need all of them all of the time. So let's say I need that bolt there to get me home. Well, pinch that one, put it back when you get home. It'll get you out of trouble. So your vehicle has a whole heap of bolts. But back to the electrics. All right, I can get distracted pretty quick. These little devices here, I only found out about these in the last year or so, but they're called a solder sleeve, and they are as cool as. So essentially what the solder sleeve's going to do, if you've got to join a wire together, rather than having solder and all the fancy stuff, you can do these with a cigarette lighter. Put your 2 bits of wire in there and there, heat that up with a cigarette lighter, and that's going to melt down, solder the joint together and then give you a waterproof soldered joint. So it's a really simple way of repairing wires on the trail. But I also do carry a little container with a range of crimp terminals and that sort of stuff as well. Again, it can get me out of trouble. Carry a selection of a nice section of wire. You can tie stuff up. Say a suspension component breaks, you can, tie it together with that. The next item, just again, stuff to fix stuff. Some brackets, some bits of pipe. What am I going to do with those? I have no idea what's going to break, but if it breaks, they might get me out of trouble. And I also like to carry a small length of bicycle inner tube rubber, because you can tie stuff together. Say a radiator hose started leaking, I may be able to use this to seal that up and a couple of cable ties and whatever, and make a repair that can get me home. And a bit of rag so you can wipe your dirty hands. Great to have in the kit. The other thing I do carry, believe it or not, is a set of brushes for the alternator in my 4-wheel drive. And I've had those get me out of trouble 2 or 3 times now. So that's another crazy little thing. A bit of twine. Again, you don't know what you're going to be able to tie up with that. So have a think about what stuff you can use to fix stuff when you break down out there on the trails. When you go into your local automotive store, go up to the counter where all of this sort of stuff is and stand there and look at it for a bit and go, I'll have 1 of those, I'll have 2 of those, I'll have 3 of those, and next thing you'll have a kit like this and you'll be well and truly prepared for your next off-road adventure. Now, I've also done some videos on what tools you should take with you when you head out bush. Well, I've done a general tools video, and that's over there. And I've done some of the more specific tools that you should take, and that video is over there. I'm Mad Matt. Stay safe on the trails.